So 2024 was a crazy year, sporting both major flops and great releases, mostly Asian ones. And here we are, standing at the very start of 2025, thinking about what this year will bring for us gamers. Today I want to discuss with you games that I look forward the most this year, and why you perhaps should as well. Hey there guys, it's Neurotalk Gaming here, and today we're talking about 10 games you should look out for this year. I will be discussing single player releases to avoid drama with all the cash grabbing, monetization and predatory mechanics, since we all know this year had more than enough of that. So let's dive in. And here we go, kicking things off with Eternal Strands, a game that might just give BioWare a serious case of FOMO. After all, Mike Laidlaw, the genius behind Dragon Age Origins, meaning the lead designer, left BioWare faster than a rogue with a stealth buff, and now he's leading Yellow Brick Games. I'm cautiously hyped. Why cautiously? Well, Veilguard. Yeah, let's not reopen that wound. But hey, Eternal Strands could be the fantasy fix we've been craving, minus the soul-crushing disappointment. In this game you play as Bryn, a young weaver on a quest to reclaim her people's ancestral home. The gameplay centers around a unique system where you can manipulate elements like heat and cold using a magical cloak, allowing for creative combat strategies. For instance, you can freeze a flying enemy's wings mid-air and watch them nosedive like they've just seen the credit card bill after holiday shopping. The game also boasts real-time environmental interactions, adding depth to both combat and exploration. Plus, there's post-launch collaboration planned, promising a new content like epic creatures and gear. The lovers of epic RPG fantasy should record the date of 28th of January. Alright, next one we have not a game but a mod, but it's such a big one that I think it deserves its place. Say hello to Skyblivion. Now this is the stuff that makes me feel like a kid again, diving into Cyrodiil for 58th time just to accidentally pick up a cheese wheel in front of a guard and end up serving time in Imperial City prison. Classics, right? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a huge fan of Bethesda games, at least the ones that came before Starfield. Bugs and all. Honestly, I can't wait to revisit Oblivion, and I'm definitely planning to do a proper review of the original game before this mod drops. But let's talk about Skyblivion, because wow, this project that screams passion. It's a fan-made remaster of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, but it's more just a graphical facelift. These modders, heroes really, have been at this since 2012, painstakingly recreating everything from rolling hills of Cyrodiil to the madness-infused Shivering Isles. And it's not one-to-one copy. They've enhanced cities, added new creatures, and even expanded the soundtrack to make the world feel fresher, all while staying true to the soul of Oblivion. Now here's the catch. The DLC content won't be available at launch, so if you were hoping to pop into Fighter's Stronghold on day 1 or go to Shivering Isles, you'll have to wait a bit. But let's be honest, you'll be too busy listening to "Have you heard about rats in Imperial City" for thousands of times to care right away. You know what's the best part of it? It's free. Yep, you will need the Skyrim Special Edition and Oblivion with all DLCs and you're good to go. And if you don't already own them, seriously, what are you waiting for? Those games are great, so I would recommend playing them anyway. Personally, I'm stoked. This is the perfect excuse to get lost in the Elder Scrolls world all again. And I'll probably spend hours just jumping around towns to level up acrobatics because that's the kind of chaotic energy I bring to Cyrodiil. So if you're like me, and your fondest memories involve closing Oblivion gates and stealing sweet rolls, well, actually not closing those because that was the worst part of the game, Skyblivion is the mod you need to keep your eye on. Next on the list is the Monster Hunter Wilds, launching on February 28th, just in time for all of us to cancel whatever life plans we thought we had. I mean, who needs a social life when you have a giant prehistoric monsters to slay, right? This time around, we're heading to the Forbidden Lands, which sounds like a kind of place you'd expect to find dragons, dinosaurs, and the bad decisions all rolled into one. You play as a hunter, obviously, tasked with uncovering the mystery behind the White Wraith, a monstrous terror that destroyed poor Nata's village. Now, I'm no detective, but if the creature named White Wraith shows up, I'm guessing things aren't looking too good for the neighborhood. Now, let's talk the gameplay, because Capcom is introducing some spicy new features. First up, we've got secret mounts, which are essentially dinosaur Uber rides. These bad boys let you traverse the map faster and chase down the prey. They're also introduced focus strikes, so you can target specific parts of monster's body, and thank you for that. One of the coolest changes though is how exploration and action are seamlessly integrated now. There are no load times when you're out of the wilds, your camp bases are right there, in the hunting zones. So no more awkward oops, forgot to pack potions moment that send you back to the base. It sounds like Monster Hunter Wilds is set to deliver a living, breathing world that's just begging to be explored. And with mix of prehistoric vibes, new mechanics and that sweet monster carnage, it's shaping up to be one of the most exciting entries in the franchise yet. Alright, let's talk about Stone of Madness, which sounds like something I'd say about my brain after a long day. But nope, it's actually a real-time tactical stealth game from Game Kitchen, the guys who brought to us both Blasphemous games. So, you already know we're in a weird, dark and disturbing ride. The game itself is scheduled for release on January 28th. The game is set in 18th century Spanish monastery, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's all peaceful chanting and good vibes. No, this place is part madhouse, part Inquisition torture chamber, which is exactly the kind of weekend getaway you don't want to book on Airbnb. You control a group of 5 prisoners, each with their own unique skills and deep-seated psychological traumas. Sounds like my D&D group, honestly. The game also features a day-night cycle, and it sounds like the things get really spooky when the sun goes down. During the day, you're exploring and gathering resources, but come nighttime, supernatural horrors start creeping in, making an escape even more dangerous. Think Amnesia: The Dark Descent, but with more monks and fewer lanterns. Let's not forget the hand-painted art style, which is inspired by Francisco de Goya, an 18th century artist known for his haunting nightmarish paintings, so expect some seriously unsettling visuals, the kind that make you want to sleep with lights on. But you know, since it's coming from Blasphemous developers, we wouldn't expect anything else. So, if you enjoy stealth games with psychological twist, the Stone of Madness is definitely one to keep on your radar. Just maybe don't play it right before the bed, unless you want to spend your night dreaming about spooky monks whispering latent incantations in the dark. Alright, let's spin it up for Mixtape, the latest brainchild from Beethoven and Dinosaurs, the folks behind the artsy and trippy The Artful Escape. If that game was like a psychedelic rock concert, Mixtape feels more like a last big high school hangout, complete with questionable choices, emotional moments, and of course a killer soundtrack. The setup: 3 friends, one last night. As they head to the final party, their playlist becomes a portal, taking them into dreamlike reenactments of their past, exploring the pivotal moments that made them who they are. It's basically like reliving your awkward teenage years, but with better music and fewer regrets, and less cringe. Hopefully. The game leans heavily into coming-of-age nostalgia, pulling vibes from classic teen movies. Expect iconic tracks to set the mood, from Smashing the Pumpkins to Joy Division. Honestly, if you've ever felt bittersweet about growing up, or if you just want to relive your high school glory days without the cringe, Mixtape is the one to watch for. And if you listened this far, let me know in the comments which is your most anticipated game this year. Next up, we got a WUCHANG Fallen Feathers, a Souls-like RPG set in late Ming Dynasty China. That's as dark and brooding as it sounds. Think Sekiro, but swap out a shinobi for a pirate warrior with amnesia and a bird-themed curse. Yep, the feathering disease slowly turns people into monstrous bird-like creatures, which is both terrifying and oddly poetic. You play as Bai WUCHANG, a badass pirate dealing with her own monstrous transformation. It's one of those use the curse or be consumed by it situations, which is very similar to all the Dark Souls that we played. The combat in this game is brutal and varied. You can go for big slow axes to crush enemies or fast nimble blades if you're feeling fancy. With non-linear progression, you choose your path and decide which horrific boss you want to die to first. And trust me, you will die.
Young man, they'll kill you!
You get used to it.
As in any Souls-like game. If you're into gritty, challenging RPGs with dark folklore vibes, WUCHANG Fallen Feathers might just scratch that Souls-like itch. Just watch out for all the feathers. Alright, brace yourselves for Dynasty Warriors Origins, because it's time to dive back into ancient China and make 1 vs 1000 combat look like a casual warm-up. Launching on January 17th, this one's shaping up to be the ultimate prequel story. And no, I'm not talking about the random amnesia plot. Oh wait, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You play as nameless hero with memory loss, a timeless classic, who somehow manages to get involved in major historical battles. From Yellow Turban Rebellion to the Battle of Chibi. This time Koei Tecmo is shaking things up with real-time strategic commands. So instead of just spamming buttons and hoping for the best, you'll be issuing orders to your allied troops, making you feel less like a warrior and more like a battlefield conductor. With weapon variety and customization options, there's something for everyone, whether you prefer big swords that scream overcompensation or dual blades that make you feel like a ninja in historical drama. In short, if you've ever wanted to yeet hundreds of enemies across a battlefield while pretending to be Master Tactician, Dynasty Warrior Origins is calling your name. Let's just hope you remember it by the end of the game. And now, let's talk about the first Berserker, Khazan, which sounds like something straight out of the Metal album, honestly. Set in Dungeon Fighter Universe Online, this one's all about Khazan, the OG Berserker. Here's the deal, Khazan was once a great general, but after getting slapped with the falsely accused of treason plotline, classics, he's now out for vengeance. And you know what that means. Lot of hack and slash action, huge boss fights, and a ton of weapons to wield with reckless abandon. Combat is fast, brutal, and requires strategic timing, so button mashing isn't gonna cut it. So, bingo, you're right, it's another Souls-like, that we already saw several of this year. This market is getting oversaturated really soon. If you're into hardcore action RPGs, where protagonist spends most of the game angry, covered in blood and swinging absurdly large weapons, the first Berserker is right up your alley. Just don't be surprised if your controller ends up with a few dents by the end. Next up, we got Dispatch. Let me just say, Telltale Games walked, so Ad Hoc Studios could bring us Mecha Man managing supervillains in what sounds like the most chaotic workplace simulator ever. You play as Robert Robertson, solid superhero alter ego name, aka Mecha Man. A guy who went from battling his nemesis in a mech suit to answering superhero hotline calls after said suit got totaled. Now, instead of punching villains, he's stuck managing them. Think HR, but for morally questionable folks with power. Your job? Rehabilitate ex-supervillains, juggle office politics, and figure out how to rebuild your mech suit for a comeback. It's like The Office if Dwight was an ex-supervillain and Michael Scott was trying to get back into his Iron Man suit. The game emphasizes player choice, so every decision, whether it's deploying a hero to stop a robbery or picking up the right snacks for the office break room, can impact the story and relationships. And trust me, with a team of quirky heroes and villains, something is about to go hilariously wrong. If you've ever thought, what if I ran Avengers but they were all disasters, Dispatch is the game for you. Just maybe avoid the coffee machine. You never know what villain might have frigged it. The next and the last one is the Hollywood Animal, a game that lets you live out your fantasy of running a film studio. Except, instead of glamour, it's filled with scandals, corruption, and morally dubious decisions. So yeah, it's less about red carpets and more about, oh no, the cops are at the door. Set in the early 20th century, Hollywood Animal is from VP Studios, the same folks who gave us the gritty This Is the Police. So what I said previously is not surprising that it's more about the cops and corruption. This time they're taking on the golden age of cinema, where the biggest dramas happened off-screen. As the head of Hollywood studio, you're responsible for everything from developing scripts to managing talent, and dealing with the censorship boards who'd really prefer if you'd stop pushing the envelope. What makes this game stand out is its dark, cutthroat atmosphere. It's not just about making movies, it's about outmaneuvering your competitors by any means necessary. Forming secret alliances? Sure. Bribing a politician to keep your latest risk film from being banned? Why not? Throwing a rival studio under the bus to save your own reputation? Absolutely. But don't think it's all fun and games. Global events like wars and political upheaval are constantly threatening your carefully built empire. Adaptation is key, or your studio could quickly become yesterday's news. If you've ever wondered what it's like to sit in a smoky back room, signing contracts with the questionable people, and wondering if your next movie will make or break your career, Hollywood Animal is shaping up to be the game for you. So here you have it guys, 10 games for you to look out for in 2025. Thank you all for listening. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I also recently made a Discord server, so if you want to have a chat, you're very welcome. This is Eurotalk Gaming signing off, and see you guys really soon.